What's good, y'all? I'm back like I never left. Mikey T, the movie star, back in the building. You already know what it is. Once you come in here, hit that like button, drop a comment, let me know what city and state you represent. Let me know how you feel about this topic overall, because today we got to go over something that just happened. 50 Cent just did an epic interview with Camron, talk with Flea. You know, that's Camron's alter ego. Everybody always used to be like, yo, how do you get in contact with Camron? Oh, that's Flea. That's Flea. Flea, what are you talking about? Yeah, that's what Camron would go by on all of his social medias and stuff like that. But, anyways, Camron did an interview with 50 Cent. The first part of the interview blew up like crazy. He probably saw, like, oh, damn, I probably should have just released the last 25 minutes with the first part, because the first conversation with 50 Cent and Camron went crazy. You know what I mean? Everybody knows what happened back in the day where Cam basically turned 50 Cent's whole name as a joke against him when he was running around saying, Curtis! Curtis! He basically threw 50 Cent off to the point where he had to change his third album from being called Before I Self Destruct to actually being called Curtis. Y'all know about Curtis, dropped in September of 2011. Well, no, 2007, excuse me. And he went up against the Graduation album by Kanye West. And it was like 900 plus thousand albums sold by Kanye, 691,000 albums sold by 50 Cent. That pretty much took the streak of 50 Cent down for good, pretty much. You know, the next album, Before I Self Destruct, actually only sold over 150,000 units. You know what I mean? 50 going from 800,000 to 1.1 million to 690,000 to 150, 160,000 before I self destruct. That was just crazy to everybody, and it spelled the end of G Unit. So Cam actually had 50 on his show with Uncle Murda and with Tony Yayo, who actually they didn't have a lot to say on this episode. I mean, Tony Yayo talks up a storm when he goes over and does his own interviews. Even we've seen Yayo and Uncle Murda argue back and forth on many different platforms to the point where it gets a little bit annoying. I'm just going to be real. Like, I don't know what they were trying to do, if they were trying to do a podcast between the two of them. But going on my expert opinion and Vlad, I think it kind of, and seeing them on TMZ as well, all the disagreements, and disagreement is good for podcasts. But when you're just constantly talking over each other, it gets annoying. And I don't see many people offering them big money for their, for their podcast. I just don't see it. It gets to the point where there's audio issues and you can't even hear them talking over each other. It's insane and it's uninteresting to me at this point. But in this interview with Camron and 50 Cent, which is epic, it's legendary to see these guys, these figureheads of hip hop, talk for the first time for over an hour for our consumption. 50 brought along his G Unit guys, which he usually does. You know what I mean? 50 Cent in the house, Yayo in the house, Banks in the house. 50 always does that. So he brought he brought Uncle Murda and he brought Tony Yayo on the show, and they didn't have much to say at all. Uncle Murda is just sitting there laughing, more laughing. And it's like, I almost was waiting for Camron for him to speak up and Camron to shut him down. Like, yo, Uncle Murda, you are a name in hip hop, but in all honesty, Uncle Murda, you have not put out a discography that matches mine. You know what I mean? Camron actually has multiple albums out. You know what I mean? He has a whole list of albums, and Uncle Murda pretty much has Bullet Bullet and the Lenny Grant story, which is on iTunes now after 5 years of development on G Unit. And it's out now with features from 50 Cent and Benny the Butcher. But in my mind, it's like, really? This is only 12 records? If this was only 12 records, then you should have released this 5 years ago, and you should be on the Lenny Grant story part 3, part 4 at this point in time. Right there is a red flag for me. So it makes me less interested. It makes me want to go look at the Lenny Grant project probably 50% less because of the time that he just the time of ours that he wasted. You know what I mean? It's not like Tony Yayo's first project that was supposed to come out in June of 2005 and it dropped in August of 2005. That's a summer. For Uncle Murda, the Lenny Grant project, he was promoting this probably before the pandemic. So it's just kind of agitating to me as a fan. And then I go to iTunes or Apple and I look at it and I'm like, there's 12 records there. Are you kidding me right now? There's 12 records? 12 records, Uncle Murda? What are you laughing about? What is there to laugh about? At a certain point in time, 50 Cent is going to look at you and be like, why every time that I start a point of conversation, are you laughing? It's like that annoying friend that you got that just, he'll start laughing at your story before you even finish the story. It's like, can you at least let me get to the punchline? And then another point, it's like, this actually wasn't even meant to be a funny story. We would actually like to get your perspective. You know what I mean? I could imagine Camron laughing his ass off. Guys, 6, 7 albums in with 3 or 4, 5, 10 different artists released. You know what I mean? We never got to see Uncle Murda excel in his career like that and do different things like how 50 had albums, how 50 had artists, 50 has TV shows. We never got to see that from you, Uncle Murda. So why are you laughing? And before we move on to this point of conversation about 50 Cent dissing Lloyd Banks out of the blue, talking about Uncle Murda's got Lloyd Banks money, before we get to that, I want to address Yayo just not saying anything. It's like, Yayo, how are you going to go on Vlad and say everything up under the sun? You say everything. You tell Vlad, you don't let me talk. You tell Uncle Murda, you don't let me talk. But now you're on Talk with Flea. Now you're with 50 and you're on another platform and you're not saying a word. This is the type of character that Tony Yayo is. When he gets around 50, he doesn't have a word to say. You know what I mean? That's embarrassing. You know what I mean? It's like, how are you on this major platform after we see you literally talk every single second of a 5-minute interview? The interview will literally be Yayo talking for 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Leave the other 38 seconds for question asking. And now he has nothing to say. They're bringing up Diddy. They're bringing up G Unit. They're bringing up all this stuff, and Yayo has nothing to say. It really baffles me. I'm like, are you kidding me, Yayo? Are you kidding me? I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, you didn't get paid to go on there. Oh, you're letting the big homie talk. This is the reason that your career didn't flourish, because you just played the background. You were like Gunplay and Torch and Young Breed and the Triple C's. When Meek Mill and Wale signed to Rick Ross, they stepped up. They let their voice be heard. But Tony Yayo is just playing the background like he's just one of 50's friends. You are an artist that had one album. You were supposed to have more than that, though. Let's be real. Tony Yayo wanted his album to sell like 700K first week. And if it did, Tony Yayo would have been the new 50 Cent. But that's not what happened, because you can't just write down things in a book and expect them to happen. You got to go out there and put in the work. You got to go out there and change the world. Maybe Yayo couldn't do that because of the fact that he was on probation, because of the fact that he had an ankle monitoring device on him, because he had a curfew. Maybe some of those things held Tony Yayo back. And maybe it was the label, Interscope, pushing his album back for no reason, just because the Games documentary and 50's Massacre did so well, dropping in January and March. Now you don't want to drop Yayo in June. You're pushing to August. You totally took away all the momentum from So Seductive. You dropped Curious. It was a major embarrassment. Major embarrassment. They even put Spider-Loc in that video. They put Spider-Loc in the video as the villain. Spider-Loc is probably like, oh, I got my screen time. I think that's what he said, because I watched it back in the day. MTV making the video, or BET Uncut with the video, whichever station it was on. And Spider-Loc was talking about being the villain. Okay, because that makes a lot of sense. I get it. You get some screen time, but you just got passed off as the villain in the G Unit movement, and you got punked in the video. Now, Spider Loc is my guy. Spider Loc is my guy, but this is my podcast, and I'm going to let my opinions be known from what I think about what happened in the past. I witnessed it all. I was there. I bought the album and I saw Spider Loc on It Is What It Is. I was there at that point in time when T.I. got kicked out of Straight Outta Cashville. He got kicked out in 2003 because they didn't think T.I. was going to be a major star. Hell, 50 Cent didn't even appear on Young Buck's album on the first single like he did every other G Unit artist because they thought Young Buck was going to fail. Let's be real. But everybody else started to say Young Buck had the best effort out of G Unit. After Get Rich or Die Trying, you might say Straight Outta Cashville was the next best album. But we're going to debate that since 50 Cent wants to say Uncle Murda is getting all of Lloyd Banks' money. You didn't leave Lloyd Banks broke, Fifth. Lloyd Banks ain't hurting based on not being on this 100-date tour with you. There's people online joking that Tony Yayo got paid $100,000 for 100 shows. Do you realize that? Or are you still just going to go with this theory of yours that Rotimi could have worked? Some of 50's theories are just way out there, and in these interviews, he tries to make us all buy into his belief system. You know what I mean? It's like what 50 says goes. Hey, bro, I love BMF. Not that big on Power, but I love BMF. You know what I'm saying? But just because you put out a show that we watch about 10 times a year, you know what I mean? You're going to have to do that a little bit more than to make me a believer than that, Fifth. You're going to have to do a little bit more than that to make me a believer because there's 52 weeks in a year. You know what I'm saying? We're all dealing with that with like TV shows like From right now. From ends and now it's 10 episodes, complete BS. But now we have to wait till 2026. Nah, I'm straight with that. So, Fifth, don't you realize there's people out there making an ass out of your artist, running around talking about they got 6 figures for your shows, your 100 shows? People are on the internet joking that Yayo made 120,000, 150,000. If you made 900,000, say it. Because I don't think 50 or I don't even know, but I'm going to say this. If Yayo is doing all these shows, he deserves to be getting paid 30, 40,000 a show. But you got to ask yourself, does he really have the caliber of work to be offered 30, 40,000 dollars a show like a Young Thug? Like a Boosie, when Boosie got out of jail, he was making $30,000, $40,000 a show. Is he really ever going to be of the caliber to do a $50,000 show like Kodak Black? I'll tell you who was. Lloyd Banks, a man who had multiple singles. Karma, I'm So Fly, On Fire, Hands Up, all these songs for the ladies. What do you have? Help with Carrie Hilson. I Don't Deserve You. Another one with Lloyd. He even teamed with the Murder Inc. dude, Lloyd. Banks has something for everybody. Lloyd Banks' performance, he is the type of artist that could get offered 20, 30,000 a show because he has a catalog to back it up. So you want to talk about Uncle Murda's getting all of Lloyd Banks' money? What catalog does Uncle Murda have to perform? Is he going to perform the 2020 wrap up and the 2021 wrap up and the 2022 wrap up, the 2023 wrap up, and then he's going to perform Bullet, right? Come on. Lloyd Banks is the one that has the history with this group. Lloyd Banks has the history from the singles of Stunt 101, Popping Them Things, I Want to Get to Know Ya. All of these songs, which is what should be performed on these shows, contains Lloyd Banks on them. So how are you doing this with Uncle Murda? Now, no disrespect to Uncle Murda, I've watched his careers throughout the years. You know what I mean? I know back to the day of him signing with Jay-Z before 50 Cent. Horrible move. If you would have signed with 50 back in the day, you would have been majorly lit. Jay-Z really couldn't do that with such a gangster act back then. Jay-Z was all on his suit and ties, ordering a $30 bottle of water for the table. That's what Jay-Z was on. Jay-Z wasn't able to put out street rap at that point in time. So Uncle Murda made a major mistake. He didn't get to build his catalog with Jay-Z. Then everybody was signing to Epic. Uncle Murda, lucky to get a deal with Epic because he didn't have a single again. And then Fifth took him back and signed him to G Unit a few years ago. And obviously, a lot of us were excited about that, but nothing came from it. Nothing came from the situation with G Unit outside of touring. Uncle Murda is being used on 50 Cent's tours, much like Banks, Yayo, and Buck were back in the day. When Yayo went to jail, what happened? When Yayo went to jail, what did 50 Cent do? When Yayo went to jail, 50 Cent signed another hype man. That's why Young Buck actually went on several different shows and said, people thought I was Tony Yayo. People didn't have a face to Tony Yayo back then because they weren't on television like that. They didn't have music videos. 50's first music video was Murda, I Don't Believe You. And Banks and Yayo weren't prominently featured in that. His next video after that was Wanksta, or I guess you got Onyx React. That might have came before that though. Yeah, those are like his first videos right there. We knew Banks's name and we knew Yayo's name from the mixtapes with the DJs shouting them out. It sounded dope. That's why everybody rolled with it. When Buck went on tour, they were like, that's gotta be Yayo. That's gotta be Yayo. And yeah, Yayo's a cool ass name, man. I seen Tony Yayo actually on Jimmy Kimmel with the Free Yayo shirt that Eminem famously wore at the Grammys. You know what I mean? Everybody watching that was kind of like, Free Yayo? What the hell is wrong with Eminem? Is he giving out free Yayo after the show? And I was watching the Camron interview with 50 and he said Yayo. And I was like, damn, Camron's probably got to love to say the word Yayo. You know what I mean? Just because that word had such a bad meaning behind it back in the day. But Yayo took it and actually made it a popular name, an acceptable name. Now it's almost like you can just say Yayo. You can write Yayo on the headlines. It's not a big deal. So yeah, Camron asked 50 Cent, what is G Unit? What is G Unit? 50 said that the record company is still there, but we haven't rebooted. So we're going to see a G Unit reboot. At this point in time, we're going to see another G Unit reboot. I'm going to put this out there. The only way a G Unit reboot will work is if they actually bring back the game this time. Yep, that's right, you guys. If they actually bring back the game this time, the G Unit reboot will work. 50 Cent just did 100 shows based on the Get Rich or Die Trying album. Personally, I think he's going to do 100 shows based on the Massacre after this. That's what I think. But 50 could do the G Unit reunion show. There's a couple ways he could do it. You know, he could do it based on Beg for Mercy. He could do it with just Buck and Banks, Yayo, and Uncle Murda. Yeah, I'll keep young Uncle Murda in there. You know what I mean? Uncle Murda is loyal to the core. You know what I'm saying? Uncle Murda is loyal. He's proved himself to be a loyal G Unit member. But I think the money is really in bringing the game back to G Unit. Oh, and bring Kid back in the fold too, you know, because a lot of people were impressed with my guy Kid when he actually signed to G Unit, and they just thought that he had the rawest, you know, the rawest flows at that point in time. He probably was the most hungry out of them at that point in time. But yeah, so bring Kid back in the fold, but the meat and potatoes of the situation Where they're really going to thrive is the reunion tour of 50 Cent and the Game. If 50 Cent really wants to go around and do another 100 shows for probably a $500,000 a piece. So what are we looking at? 50 million. It might even be more than that. You know what I mean? I might be lowballing it. It might be $1 million a piece. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about 100 million plus tour right now, because that's not even including, or probably it is, but you got merchandise. You got the potential of them actually putting out new records for streaming. That's the only way I see a G Unit reunion working. But like I said a few seconds ago, I think 50 can just do the 100 shows in a few years based on the Massacre, because those were two majorly classic albums. But as far as a G Unit reboot, Tony Yayo actually said, we're just really doing shows. Interesting that he says that. You know, we're just really doing shows. We're an act that doesn't need to, maybe he's thinking like we're an act that doesn't really need to release physical projects at this point in time. We can tour based on the nostalgia of who we are. Now, guys, I was just saying it a few minutes ago. Lloyd Banks touring, but let me reiterate, Lloyd Banks touring is a lot different than Tony Yayo touring. Just think about it, you guys. I know y'all got to know that Tony Yayo does a lot less bookings than Lloyd Banks. So it's really Tony Yayo in this situation who is more happy about 50 Cent having the nostalgia factor and the G Unit having that nostalgia factor to where they can do shows, 100 shows at that, where Yayo can make 3, 4, 5, hopefully 3, 4, 5,000 a show, because everybody out there on the internet is saying that Yayo keeps bragging about getting 6 figures off of the Get Rich or Die Trying tour, and he probably only made like 100 racks, 1,000 per show, but he got to stay at the Versace Hotel. Oh, okay, cool. I even got into my next note right there. Camron asked if there's plans for new artists. And of course, 50 Cent had to bring up Rotimi. He brought up Rotimi, and he talked about how Rotimi used the infrastructure and then actually got more popping afterwards. He said Rotimi came at him and wanted to do some Afro beats type styles, and Fifth wasn't really accepting to it. He's like, I don't know if that's going to work out. I don't know if that's going to work out, but I'm going to give you your freedom to go and do what you want. And then 50 Cent also throws in, now a lot of record labels wouldn't do this. This is what I mean by 50 like trying to make us get into his belief system. Oh, regular record labels don't do that and just let an artist go and do what he wants to do. This is kind of similar how Prodigy was given the okay by 50 Cent to go and release albums on E1 and whatever other independent labels Prodigy had worked with before his passing. May he rest in peace. So, well, really, before his stint in jail, he released HNIC2 and Return of the Mac before he went to prison. Both great albums, both extremely different albums. And I love them both for everything that they encompass. Now, 50 Cent wants to try and smooth this over on us, get this one past us. 50, this is a whole nother episode, you guys. But why did you not just release Prodigy's albums on G Unit? I would have gave him the freedom to go release on Koch, a label that you call the Graveyard. Come on, we all know that Jim Jones went to Koch and proved himself. Went to Koch and moved 90,000 copies when nobody thought he could move 9,000 copies. Fifth's on there talking about ballin', talking about how Jim Jones found his record so he could be in the same category as Camron, as Mace. I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but Tony Yayo and Uncle Murda, they're not in that category. So yeah, Jim Jones worked his ass off when the whole world didn't believe in him. They said, you We don't know. We don't. Dame Dash said, I can't give you $1 million. I can't give you $1 million, Capo. Capo went out there and proved why he was worth $1 million 100 times over. He made an anthem that'll never be forgotten. I'll go as far to say that Jim Jones made a bigger anthem than Cam or Mace. I'll go that far. That's right. Maybe he didn't have a better overall career, but he had a bigger single than both of them ever did. And yeah, I'm putting the Diddy records in there too. Don't even mention the Biggie and Mace record. Don't do that. Don't do that, man. Because we all know Biggie's like top 2 dead or alive forever. So basically, after that tirade that I went through, 50 Cent said, oh, he let Rotimi go to do what he wants. Okay, but once Rotimi went independent, nobody gave a damn about him. Just to be real with you, Fifth. Just to be real with you, if you would have presented Rotimi's project as G Unit, Afro Beats, you maybe could have beaten a few guys to the punch. You know what I'm saying? You maybe could have beat a few guys to the punch with that one, but you wanted to release him from his contract and you wanted to let him do his own thing. I don't buy into that, Fifth. I don't buy into that. I think you signed Rotimi because he was on the show and you saw that you could cross promote it there, but it didn't work. Maybe we'll have to address that on a full episode. So Camron said he's done with artists. I see why. I see why Camron's done with artists, because you got artists like Joel Santana. You know what I mean? He was on the scene like crazy. Camron put everything on Joel's. Joel's got signed to Def Jam, but then Camron and Joel's drifted apart. Joel's became as big as Camron. Camron was like, all right, I'm going to wash my hands with this. Allegedly, the contract was sold to Def Jam for $2 million. Def Jam, we've seen how they've floundered with new age artists in the past, outside of putting Joel Santana with somebody like Chris Brown, if that was even a Def Jam release. That's where Joel Santana really got his popularity, off that Run It single. And then he came with his own records. And then he had everything going on with Camron and Dipset. The man had a lot of different things going. He had a lot of different avenues. He could jump on R&B records. He could do solo records. He could do group records. You know, a lot of then this collaboration with Lil Wayne. But you know what I mean? Like sometimes life moves really fast. You know what I mean? Life moves really fast. Sometimes you get more money than you ever expected to get in this business. I don't really know what happened to Joel Santana. I haven't really got the chance to talk with Joel Santana. In the future, I would like to, though, man, because he's an artist that I've watched from the very beginning. Then you got Jim Jones, a guy who ends up on the same stage as 50 Cent in the midst of the 50 Cent and Camron beef. You know what I mean? Like Camron's looking at his major artists like, damn, what's going on? Then you got Freaky Zeke. Freaky Zeke comes out, sells 4,000 copies first week. You know what I mean? Freaky Zeke was my first interview that I ever did. Guy had me waiting for like 30 minutes in Harlem on the street. It is what it is, though. You know what I'm saying? You got to get it how you live. I travel for my interviews, and I really appreciate Freaky Zeke for the interview that we did back then. You know what I'm saying? And I was looking forward to his album, The Book of Ezekiel, when he was released from jail, and he was the 4th official member of Dipset. But the album tanked. Then you got other artists like Hell Rell dropping an album, 16,000 units, tanked. Other artists dropping singles with Lil Wayne that just go nowhere. You know, so I could see why Camron is okay with stepping back from running a record label. We saw Dipset branch off to Bird Gang, Skull Gang, 730, Purple City. You know, we saw all these branch offs happen. You know, Dipset was really going to be one of the biggest conglomerates in the music industry. It just didn't really pan out like that. You know, there could have been multiple artists released from all of those record labels that I just named. It just didn't end up happening. So Camron having been like literally he would be the figurehead of all that. He'd be the leader of all that. Like to see all of that just kind of fold, all these different divisions. Bird Gang is back popping, but they you know what I mean? But we never really saw much from the others. You know what I'm saying? Salute to Shice Bubs and Uncasa. They could have did major things with Purple City. You know what I mean? If they were going to present Uncasa as an artist over there, we even saw guys like 40 Cal, you know what I mean, actually have to go to other imprints. I think it was like Baby Grand or something. So Wu Tang is what Dipset almost reminds me of, how like all the artists just started getting deals elsewhere. So 50 said that these dudes have a good life, and Uncle Murda said there's no complaining over here. As I said, every time you kind of turn to Uncle Murda, he'll be laughing. You know what I mean? He'll just be laughing, having a good time, asking for some Branson, talking about where's the roll ups? Where's the roll ups? Yayo, you were supposed to go get roll. Are you kidding me right now? Uncle Murda is on this interview badgering Tony Yayo, saying, you got to go get the roll ups. That reminds me of when Fredro Starr told me that he used to send 50 Cent to go get the Phillies. But that's another story, you guys. That's another story. One time, Fredro Starr actually kicked me out of. We'll talk that story another time if Fredro Starr wants to come back on the channel. The one time, yeah, Fredro Starr actually, yeah, we'll talk about it another time. Dude kicked me out, but we'll discuss that another time. It was actually very, very funny. Then the next day, we got stuck in an airport together because the flights were delayed. I actually missed my flight. His flight to Cali got delayed. It was hilarious. Salute to my bro, Bangum Smurf. He's another person that I should mention in this whole G Unit reunion thing, but he's not the person that 50 Cent is poking fun at. So 50's like, these dudes have a good life. Uncle Murda said there's no complaining over here. 50 said Lloyd Banks is very upset with this dude. This dude has all of his money. He has all of his money. So 50 felt the need to take a shot at Lloyd Banks, arguably his most successful artist. You could say The Game, you know what I mean? Because The Game's album actually moved like 500. Game's album actually moved like 560,000 units first week, whereas Lloyd Banks moved like 440,000 first week. It is what it is. But 50's saying that Lloyd Banks is angry right now that he didn't actually get to go on this tour. Blue Hefner angry at 50 Cent. You better hope not, Fifth. You better hope that Blue ain't angry with you, because I could see an ether level diss coming. I could see a hit 'em up. I could see a crazy record like that coming. Lloyd Banks talking about, yo, Fifth, Joe. You know what I'm saying? You could see some crazy stuff like that happen, since 50 wants to come on here and poke fun about Lloyd Banks being upset he didn't get to go on tour with you, so you could tell him what to do. What? So you could tell Lloyd Banks what to do for 100 days and 100 nights? Lloyd Banks is sick and tired of you telling him what to do. I'm sure of it. Be here, be there. Lloyd Banks used to smoke hella weed. Do you think that he wants to hear 50 ordering him around, or do you think he wants to hear about 50 hiring somebody to order him around? This is your publicist. You're going to do what she wants you to do. Fifth, don't you remember Lloyd Banks is the guy that told you Tupac and Biggie wouldn't have had an Instagram, wouldn't have been on Instagram? Lloyd Banks isn't about that, man. He's not all about that luxury. He's not all about that this false this BS lifestyle where everybody's sipping tea with their pinky stuck up. He's not about that self-centered type bullshit that so many rich people are about. Lloyd Banks, you could tell, is real to the core. You could tell that Lloyd Banks isn't about all that type of stuff, man. He's not all about that rich shit. He's not like Meek Mill hanging out with all them dudes on private jets. You know what I mean? Lloyd Banks comes from Southside Jamaica, Queens. He's not trying to hang out on a jet with Michael Rubin. He's not trying to go get breakfast with Jimmy Iovine. You know what I mean? He never gave off that impression. He gives off the impression of he wants to get money and get back to his own life. Like, so that right there, 50 is just totally wrong about that. And now he wants to open up a can of worms again. He wants to open up a can of worms again and diss Lloyd Banks. Well, I think now the disses won't be subliminal. Like I said, now I think we're going to get some real disses coming from Lloyd Banks, and you won't have to question whether or not he's actually taking shots at 50 Cent. And of course, Uncle Murda is going to laugh. Uncle Murda's laughing when 50 Cent is saying that he's getting all of Lloyd Banks' money. Uncle Murda, yeah, you might have something new to respond to in the 2024 wrap up. Let me tell you that much. Laughing at another man, you never sold a fraction of the records that Lloyd Banks sold. Hell, the new Cody series from Lloyd Banks is outselling the Lenny Grant story. Like, if I'm going to be real, there's actually SoundScan for Lloyd Banks' last project, 12,000 units, something like that. Not the highest, 9,000 units, not the best at all. But at least he has numbers out there. Uncle Murda, I could never find a number on your sales. And you're going to go on this interview, this major interview seen by over 1 million people, and you're going to laugh when 50 Cent says you're taking Lloyd Banks' position. Well, let me tell you, as a fan, as somebody who has watched all of this from day one, when these guys didn't have nothing and were broke and were getting money off of sales in the street, when they didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, they didn't have nothing. I was watching them. And Lloyd Banks has made it to the point in time where he actually has sold millions of records. He sold millions of records. You ain't going to take that away from him. He has platinum plaques. He has gold plaques. You got no plaques. You got no plaques. And you're going to sit there and laugh? You don't think 50 is going to watch this back in a few years, in a few months, and be like, huh, what has come of the Lenny Grant story? What has come of it? Because it didn't sell as much as Hunger for More. Didn't sell as much as The Rotten Apple. Hell, it didn't even sell as much as Hunger for More 2. So, like, honestly, man, these guys, they're just going along with everything that 50 says, even when he's dissing people who he knows. When somebody beefs with somebody they know, you stay out of that. It's like I asked AR Rab, hey, what do you think about the beef with Lil Wayne and Birdman? He told me, he's like, that's like father and son. That's like father and son right there. I'll do my business with Birdman, but I'm not going to even comment on Lil Wayne versus Birdman. You know why that is? It's because if you comment on that, you burn a bridge. And right now, on an interview, Uncle Murda is laughing at Lloyd Banks when 50 Cent is painting him in a negative picture. Oh, he's so mad at you right now. I guarantee you, Lloyd Banks isn't even thinking about Uncle Murda because 50 Cent was just looking for a couple of hype man to join him on his 100-day tour from Get Rich or Die Trying. And a lot of the artists that 50 was around graduated from being hype men. They graduated from that. You know what I'm saying? Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, The Game, they all went on to have successful careers. And they were all hype manning for 50 Cent. Bo, 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 bo! G-Unit, what? You know, they were all doing that back in 2003 before they ever sold a record. These are all things that I keep in mind, man. 50 Cent saying Lloyd Banks is very upset with this dude. He has all of his money. And one of the last things I heard 50 say, which I think pertained to the Lloyd Banks situation, he said he's got to sustain his relationships. You see, Camron's not up there joking about Lloyd Banks. He's not up there laughing about Lloyd Banks because he knows Lloyd Banks might come and talk with Flea. If Uncle Murda and Tony Yayo are creating a podcast, then they got to realize now Lloyd Banks is going to come up there and be like, yo, you was laughing when you said you was taking my money. Don't you realize how much, you know how much money I actually got? I sold 400,000 first week. I go to South America, Canada, Europe without 50 Cent and I get paid. You know what I mean? Like, be ready for that though, Uncle Murda. You know what I mean? Be ready for that. Maybe it could revitalize what you're doing a little bit if Lloyd Banks actually throws you in the disc, you know. But at this point, you guys, I'm going to ask y'all. Do you think Lloyd Banks is going to 100% respond to this in a diss, on a track, on the new Cody project, on like a jacking for beats style thing? Like, say he actually went over like Who Shot Ya, Hit Him Up, you know what I mean? The Takeover, Ether, you know what I'm saying? What could we see happen? We saw Lloyd Banks even take a picture with The Game. 50 Cent wants to talk about tour money. Who knows? Maybe Whack 100 will set up a tour with The Game, Lloyd Banks, and Young Buck. And maybe he'll make it 100-date tour, since 50 apparently thinks Lloyd Banks wants so badly to jump on a tour with him for 100 days and 100 nights. Like, yo, there's some people out there that like dread having to work. You know what I'm saying? Like every day, like you get up, you got to go to work. No, I'm not feeling that today. I'd rather just sit around and smoke. I'd rather sit around, smoke, go shopping, play a little bit of the game, hit my favorite spot to eat. Because once you get a little bit of money, that's a luxury you get to enjoy. I think I'm going to chill in the koozie, smoke weed like Biggie said. This is what some of us do. You know what I mean? But 50 works. 50's a worker, and I'm not going to put that past him. You know what I'm saying? He's a grinder. That's what he does. Me too. I work every single day putting out videos. I hope y'all like this podcast today, man. I'm about to start uploading this stuff on Apple, Spotify. You know what I'm saying? The full length podcast. I'm going to come on here. I'm going to have conversations like this. This was fun though, man. This was fun because 50 just keeps it interesting. You know what I mean? 50 keeps it entertaining, which is why he has pretty much made his transition into the entertainment, movie, television business so seamlessly. And guys, I just want you to subscribe if you're watching this. Drop a comment. Let me know what you thought of it. Any of my opinions that you differed with, some stuff that you might have agreed with. And yeah, that'll do it for today's show. You already know who I am, Mikey T, the movie star. If you want to follow on Instagram, it's Mikey T _ the movie star. Follow for a follow. You already know what it is. I'm out of here. Major respect.